If you want your yard to be incredibly low maintenance, incredibly low water, and really good for native bees and butterflies and birds, you need to plant with native plants. That's just how it is. You need to plant with native plants. Hi, I'm Daryl. I'm a sustainable landscape designer, and I help clients all over the country transform their wasted and wasteful outdoor spaces into functional, beautiful landscapes. But sometimes when you do something professionally, you don't take the time to actually do the work for yourself, which means I myself have a yard unbecoming of a professional. This is the year we fix that. So this summer, I'm partnering with Garden for Wildlife to spread the word on native plants and transform my Salt Lake City yard into a sustainable landscape and a native wildlife habitat certified by the National Wildlife Federation. I'm taking you along with me every step of the way, so follow along to watch my yard transform. Thanks for watching. My name's Daryl, and today you're at work with me as we're installing a 100% native landscape into this yard. We removed the sod about a week ago, and today all of these amazing plants are going in. I'm teaming up with Garden for Wildlife to spread the word on how amazing native plants are and also how to make them look beautiful and intentional and lovely in your yard. So here are your tips on how to make a native landscape look amazing and why you're gonna love it. Tip number one is you want everything in your yard to kind of have a defined function and a defined shape. So instead of thinking of your yard like this sort of question mark where we just throw some plants against fences, let's think of your yard like a floor plan that we move through. So you move from your outdoor kitchen to your outdoor dining room to your outdoor living room into your garden. And in my case, from your garden to your food forest to your front yard. You have a flow. This will help you actually structure in your native plants to kind of group together and look intentional instead of just having a bunch of color and texture that makes it feel chaotic and maybe unkempt. This will really give it that structure and shape and intention. Number two, also with this sort of structure, shape, intention thing, you can use woody shrubs, trees, things that have more of a solid structure in order to really create frames and shape. And then when you put those amazing, colorful, herbaceous perennials and flowering plants in between, that will look nicely framed by these more structural elements. Again, that's going to make your yard look nicer, neater, more intentional, while still being an amazing, lush wildlife habitat. Three, if you're ever unsure about where to put plants in a border, just stick with taller in the back, shorter in the front. Feels straightforward, but very effective. Next, and this is as functional as it is aesthetic, make sure that you're grouping plants by water need and that you're putting them in the soil types that are correct for those plants. This is going to help your plants do better, be less stressed, and generally just be happier to be there. So if you have areas with more moist soil, maybe it's a lower area topographically where water kind of ends up, let's plant rain garden plants, wet riparian species plants there. But if you have a hill where water doesn't hang out there very much at all and it runs off, let's make sure we're doing drought-tolerant species there. Just because a plant is native to where you live doesn't mean that it's suited to exactly those soil conditions of that spot, because something that's native to a wetland is not going to do as well in a prairie, even if those two things are only a couple hundred yards apart. And again, if you're shopping through Garden for Wildlife, they have these collections sorted by soil type and moisture type, and they actually have rain garden collections. So you can, if you have an area like that where you have a lot of water accumulation, you can purchase this rain garden collection, and all of those plants are going to be well suited to that. And lastly, I'd say just be intentional about your color choices. And by intentional, I just mean do what makes you happy. Like if you want it to be red and orange and green and purple and blue, do that. It's going to look colorful and lush and amazing. But a lot of clients that I talk to, they want to do all of these eco-friendly practices, but they're concerned about curb appeal, neatness, general orderliness, all of that. And there are ways to make these native lush landscapes look more intentional. And one of those ways is to just simply pick 2 or 3 complementary colors and sprinkle those throughout the landscape instead of trying to just do the entire rainbow. And finally, I just also want to give you permission to ignore everything that just came out of my mouth, because if you want to just have a meadow, a prairie, a forest that is a beautiful certified wildlife habitat, do that. Do what works for your yard, your space, your aesthetic. If you're not worried about it being neat, don't make it neat. The wildlife certainly doesn't care if all of your colors are complementary or if there's structure framing these wild plants. So just do what's good for you. Do what you like. So let's say you go through all of this work of making this amazing certified wildlife habitat. We know what's in it for the wildlife, but what's in it for you? There are so many benefits to having a wildlife habitat for a backyard, and I'm just gonna go through a few. One, if you've ever sat outside on a patio trying to enjoy a meal and you've been swarmed by bees and wasps and other things. Those bees and wasps don't have enough food sources in your yard to keep them satisfied, so now they're trying to eat your food. So if you want to sit on your patio one lovely day or evening and just enjoy your time without being swarmed by insects, give those insects something to eat somewhere else. You're going to have a much nicer time outside. Number 2, your native plants that you've put in your yard are going to be happy growing in the climate that you live in, which means they're going to be happy to be there. They're going to thrive in your yard with way less maintenance, way less work overall. And if you live in a place that has hotter, drier summers, your water use is going to go way down. Also, if you just have less lawn, you have to spend less time mowing the lawn. Huge win, in my opinion. And finally, the last thing that you take from this is just this warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Just this feeling right here, deep in your heart, that you've done something good for the planet, the universe, the local bees, birds, and butterflies, the things that really need help and conservation and protection in this world. And you did that. You, with your own 2 hands. You should feel so good about that. I know I do.
Here's the thing. I know that sourcing a bunch of native plants, it's not always easy. But the amazing thing about Garden for Wildlife is that you can actually order the stuff online and have it shipped to you, right to your door. So if your local nursery doesn't have a good selection of native plants, you're not totally out of luck. Right now, Garden for Wildlife serves the Midwest and the East Coast, but they are actively working on expanding into the West Coast, so just check back periodically to see if they're servicing your area yet. Also, the other amazing thing about them is that if you're not sure how to do this, you're not sure what order to put plants in, or you're just having decision paralysis, analysis paralysis, if you will, they do plant collections of things that already work together, both ecologically and also visually. So you can purchase these bundles of multiple plants that you know will look good, and they already specify the square footage that covers. So map out the square footage of your yard, order the correct number of plant collections, done. The work's already done for you. What do you need me for, you know?